First of all, start with our sponsors. Daf Yomi for the month is sponsored by Duvi and Tehila Catcher. Bizchus a refuah shlema for Ephraim ben Shifra. And Daf Yomi for the week is sponsored by Brian Michelle Schiffman, Leili Nishmas Shaya ben Yosef, also known as Mr. Charles Schiffman, Brian's grandfather. And today's Daf, Thursday's Daf, is also sponsored by my father, Mr. Loiterman of Norfolk, Virginia. Le'iloi Nishmas Rabbi Ruvain Stafford, whose yahrzeit is this coming Shabbos, the 18th of Teves. So we are 14 lines up from the bottom. Chaf Vav Amud Beis. We're a couple of pages behind, but we're doing all right. So Chaf Vav Amud Beis, about 14 lines up. Siman Davar V'Arayas Ganov. Okay, Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says, Ochle Davar Acher Psulin Leidus. Somebody who eats, this the Gemara will often do with a nice language rather than to speak out and say this the Avera outright, but somebody who eats not kosher, he actually says it's mekabim stuckum in a goyim. Is somebody who he gets non-kosher food by receiving charitable donations from the non-Jews. So he goes to the non-kosher soup kitchen and he wants to get food. So he is now pasuli edus. So honey mili bifarhesia. That's only if he does it publicly. Aval betzina lo, but not if he does it privately, because he's not making a statement of it. And even if he does it publicly, that's only if there's a possible way for him to get this privately, and he goes out of his way to do it publicly. The kamivazi nafshe b'farhesia, he's embarrassing himself publicly to do it. Aval lo afshar lay chayisihu. But if he can't, there's no other way for him to get this food, and that's the only source for it. Then that's life and death, and then it's not an issue. And clearly, he's not doing it in order to be embarrassing to the faith, and therefore it's not going to invalidate his ability to be a witness. Rav Nachman says, "Hachoshed al ha'arayus," somebody who is, we're concerned that he is possibly a philanderer, right? Not a philanthropist, right? This is the somebody who fools around with inappropriate people. So sexually, kosherly edus, he is kosherly edus. He is not invalid.
Isn't philanderer like somebody who talks a lot?
Is that? I don't know. Google it. Maybe I'm wrong. I have to know
No, I don't know.
Amar Rav Sheshes says, Ani Mari Arbain Bikasvei Vikosher. So Rav Sheshes says, he says, so this guy is going to get 40 lashes on his shoulder and he's going to wind up still being kosher li'edos. That kind of doesn't make sense, right? He's a bad guy, but he's going to still
punished by getting lashes.
He's getting, yes, but the point is that the definition, we said person should be a wicked person, right? Person be a wicked person. This person seems pretty wicked, and nevertheless, he's going to still be able to be a valid witness. It doesn't make sense. So Amar Rava says, Rav Nachman linyan edus isha shu pasal. Rav Nachman agrees, though, that when the testimony has to do with a woman, then such a person would be invalid, right? The issue is not, according to Rav Nachman, it's not that you are a bad person. It's just whether you are potentially going to lie about something, right? That's what we're trying to be able to find out. People do averos. The question is whether this averos indicates that you're going to be a liar or not. So if this person is one who is having inappropriate relationships with women, so therefore if there's a testimony about whether a woman is married or not, so then he shouldn't be allowed to testify. Right? Amar Ravina says, V'itim Rav Papa lo amran ela la'afuka. That is only if the testimony is that he's trying to make her permissible, meaning he's testifying that her husband died. And so therefore she's able to get married to me, for example. So then that's where we wouldn't believe him because he is trying to make his inappropriate contacts. Aval li'iyula leislan ba. But as far as to make her married, he wants to testify that she is married. There's no benefit to him, so of course he'd be believed for that. So pshita, no, that seems pretty obvious. So ma'odatema, no, what would you have thought? Ha'adifa lei. That no, he would prefer that the lady be married. Why? We have a principle that stolen waters are sweeter. People enjoy the thrill of doing the wrong thing. So therefore, if he could make this woman usher, so then he is more likely to do the avera. Kamash malan, dekama dekaima, hachi shchichale. That really, the answer is no, because he's just trying to make this woman accessible to himself. And therefore, that is the thing that we should be concerned about, not be concerned that he's just trying to make the avera sweeter. V'amar Rav Nachman, Ganav Nisan v'Ganav Tishrei lo shmei Ganav. So he says somebody steals during the harvest seasons, during the Tishrei months, and also during the during the Nisan months. So these are harvesting periods, and so he's not really a Ganav. Hani mili ba'arisa. That's when we're talking about somebody who is the sharecropper of the field, right? So he takes a little bit extra for himself. Okay, not a good thing to do, but he's not outright a thief and he's not a liar. He's just somebody who is not cautious. He figured he earned it. Why? Because he's the oris, so he figures, well, I earned it, I did all the work. V'davar muat, and he takes a small amount. V'davar shenigmara malachto, and also he takes something which is complete produce. Why? Because the halacha is that if you hire a day laborer to do work in your field, he's allowed to eat from the produce that he's harvesting. So he sort of thinks that halacha applies to himself. So this fellow is not necessarily a bad fellow. He's just sort of a guy who thinks that this is permissible and he does it even though he's not supposed to. Ikrei de Rav Zvid. So there was a farmer, I guess, who was taking care of Rav Zvid's property. He was not an Oris. He was the...
Rav Zvid, who was he?
Rav Zvid. I don't know if we have a biography of Rav Zvid. I'll look up Rav Zvid's biography for you. So he says, so his farmer, so he had Chad Gava Kava Desari. So he stole a kav of barley, upasle, and they made him invalid to be a witness. The Chad Gonov Kibura de Ihini upasle. So in another circumstance, he stole a cluster of dates, right? And they also invalidated him. So this is because he wasn't the sharecropper, so he had no rights to this, and so therefore he was considered a thief. It wasn't the same sort of circumstance. Hanu kavuroi de kavur nafsha b'yom tov rishon shel atzeres. So there was once these grave diggers. They dug a grave for somebody on the first day of a 2-day yontif of Shavuos. Okay, it's 2-day yontif. They decided we got to bury this guy. They buried the guy on the first day. Shamtinhu Rav Papa upaslin le'edus. Rav Papa put the guys in chirim because you're not allowed to do that, and they also made him invalid for being witnesses. The halacha would be that, right? So you can't do that. You can't dig the grave on the first day, right? So now,
right, I'm trying to understand. But Yom Tov Rishon Shal Atzeres. So the first day of Atzeres?
The first day of Shavuos. Atzeres is Shavuos.
Like Shmini Atzeres?
No, Shavuos.
Oh, Atzeres. Oh,
on the first day of Shavuos.
Okay,
yeah, not Shmini Atzeres. Shavuos, right? Atzeres is what the Torah calls Shavuos. Right. So they dug a grave, and it was Yontif. They shouldn't do it, so he put him in Cherem, and he said, "You're pasali edus." V'achshirinhu Rav Huna, breder of Yeshua, and Rav Yehuna, the son of Rav Shua, let them come back in. Amar le Rav Papa, v'harishayimninu. Rav Papa, who said put them in Cherem, said, "Why'd you let them back? They're wicked people. They're doing the wrong things." So Savri mitzvah kavdi. He said they thought they were doing a mitzvah. They didn't realize. V'ha kamesham tina lehu. So. Yeah, but how could they think they were doing a mitzvah? I put them in cherem. They should have realized at that point, oops, we did the wrong thing. So the answer is Savri Kapara Ka'avdil and Rabbanan. They thought, no, really it was the right thing to do, but the rabbis had to punish us because we did dig a grave on Yontif. So maybe that's the way it goes. You're supposed to dig the grave, and then the rabbi is supposed to punish you for doing it, and you accept the punishment, right? That's what they thought.
They would have asked first before they started doing it?
Would have been a good idea. Would have been a good idea, right? They may have been told not to do it otherwise. That's right. Itmar Chav Zayinim and Aleph, it has been said, Eid Zomim. So when you get somebody who is a Eid Zomim, right? We talked about this Eid Zomim, the testimony is false, and 2 witnesses come and testify that he was not possible to give that testimony. He was with us during the time he testified. So that person gets the punishment of the person he was accusing, they were accusing. So here's this Eid Zomim. Abaye amar limafreyahu nifsal, v'Rava amar mikanula bahu nifsal. The question is, they're invalid for giving testimony. The question is, at what point are they considered to be invalid? Are they invalid from the time that they gave their testimony? Or is there invalidation from the time that the Edom Zom testify about them?
I hear.
Right? You understand the issue?
Yeah.
Could be a few days in between.
Right, that's basically.
But if they testified in between about some other case, is their testimony valid or not? So Abaye Amar Lemafreyahu Nifso. Abaye says you got to go back to when they gave their testimony, because Me'idna de Asid Rasha who right? Because at the moment that they lied about their testimony, that's when they became wicked people.
Right.
Right? That's when they did the Avera. In Russia, you shouldn't cast your hand together with a wicked person. Al Tashes Russia, aid, and says you shouldn't make a wicked person into a witness. Rava says, no, Mikanu Lahabahu Nifsal. It's from now on, it's from the time that they got found out when the two witnesses came and testified about them. Because right, because Eid Zomim Chidushu, because in Eid Zomim is by itself a concept that the Torah, somebody was asking, does it make logical sense that we should believe the second set of witnesses over the first set? The answer is no. It's just because the Torah says so. This rule is unusual in that it doesn't really make logical sense, but the Torah said so. Therefore, you can't make any judgments about the fact that they're wicked or anything like that, other than when the Torah says that they are. They become invalid at the moment that somebody testifies about them. That's the moment they become a Rasha.
Do they have to prove their testimony? I'm assuming they have to prove it. It's not like, okay, I said, okay, I was with them. That's not true. They couldn't have done that because I was with them.
Two witnesses.
That's it?
Yep.
They just make
that's
it. You
that's
just
it.
believe it. You're because they said it.
Two witnesses came and testified about these other two witnesses. Right. That's why it's a chiddush, right? Yeah. So my chazis to samach ahani, samach ahani. Why did you rely? This is your point, right? Why did you rely on these? You should rely on the other witnesses. Why did you believe the second witness instead of the first? So ein lach bo el mishas chidusho. So therefore, you can't establish them as wicked. Except at the time that the Torah establishes that they've become wicked, right? At the time the Torah says they become wicked when the testimony happens about them, right? From that time ve'elech and on. Ekad Amri, there are those who say that Rava Nami Kabayis virally, that Rava agreed with Abaye that really it's from the time that they gave their original testimony that they become Rasha. Well, my Tom Kamer, he was giving a rationale. My Tom Kamer Mikano Lahaba. Why did he call that from here and on? Mishum Pseidel Lekuchos. You're right. Essentially, I agree, except that we would have a problem. If we made all of their testimony invalid retroactively, we would have a problem in that people have signed contracts or people have believed their testimony and made purchases based on that testimony. And so therefore, people will lose out their properties. The sales will become invalid based on the fact that we've invalidated their testimony retroactively, and we don't want to do that. So my beinahu, what is the difference of viewpoints between these two? Eke beinahu das hidu beitre bechad, inami depasinu begaz lanusa. So the difference is that what happens if the two witnesses came to testify on each of the individual witnesses, right? Two witnesses came and said, you were with us, one of you, and then the other witness got invalidated in the same way by two other witnesses. At that point, it's not really a chiddush anymore. Now it makes sense that the two witnesses would be better than the one witness, in which case it could make sense that we would go might be go retroactive, might make more sense. The other way to look at it is that if the second witnesses invalidated the first witnesses, not by saying that they are Edom Zomim, but rather by testifying against them that they are thieves. If they testify against them that they're thieves, so then there's no chiddush to that either, right? Because we said a thief can't testify. Right. So therefore, their invalidation can go back to the moment at which they became a thief as well.
For example, with the shepherds.
Yeah. Yes. But if it's because Seder de Lukuchos, but if it's because somebody's going to lose out retroactively, so then that would still be an issue in these cases,
right? Even
right.
If he's a thief.
So therefore, that's what makes a difference. These are cases where there's no chiddush, but there is a concern for the loss retroactively. So that's where it would make a difference to Rava's opinion. For Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Midifti, Rabbi Yirmiyah Midifti says, Avad Rav Papi uvda kavase de Rava, that Rav Papi once followed Rava's position of from now on, right? That was his position that we're going to consider from now on. Followed his position in a court case. Marba Ravashi Amar Hilchasa Kavase de Abaye. Marba Ravashi said that the halacha is like Ravashi. V'Hilchasa Kavase de Abaye b'Yalkagam. And the halacha is that there are 6 circumstances in all of Shas that the halacha is like Abaye when he's arguing with Rava. Normally, Rava wins in an argument between Rava and Abaye, but there are 6 circumstances. One of them is this one. This one is the right. First one, let's go through them. First one is Yesh Shlomi Das. If somebody has it loses an object and it's found before he realizes and gives up hope, the halacha is like Abaye over there, Be'elu Mitzias, and then he says Eid Zomim is this one right here. The ayin is Eid Zomim, that's right here, and the Lechi Ha'omed Me'elav. If you have a post that's part of your eruv for a mavoi, so there's an argument that they have over there whether that's considered to be valid if it's standing by itself, it wasn't put up by man. Also, Kiddushin Shulim Sur Labia. The next one is if somebody has a marriage that because of a prohibition they can't, or for circumstances they can't have relations. Is that considered a valid marriage? They have an argument about that. And the next is Gilui Das Begitten. If somebody reveals his intentions about some kind of condition on a get, and so whether that get is valid or not valid. So that's the fifth case. And the last case is Mumur Ochel Nevelos Lahachis, is going to be a case that we're going to discuss later on, whether somebody who eats non-kosher food with intention, whether he is going to be there's a question whether
he eats trade food with intention.
Yeah, lahachis. It's on this later on this page, so we're going to see in a moment.
Well, what do you do with
whether he's going to be invalid for being a witness or not?
If you know it's not valid, why would you do it intentionally?
Because he wants to get people mad. He wants to show the rabbi that he doesn't care, right? So okay, next. Mumar ochel nevelos. Right now, somebody, he's decided that he just doesn't want to follow the Torah anymore. So he's mumar ochel nevelos l'tei avon. So he goes and he's going to eat non-kosher meat. So then but he's doing it because he's hungry, right? L'tei avon, right? He likes it. It tastes very good. So divrei hakol pasol.
Right.
Then everybody agrees. Then he's an invalid witness, right? Why is he doing that? Because he's weak, right? He's gonna get, and so therefore he's subject to being dishonest or not keeping to his word. So right, he's just or because the price is cheaper. Right. That's the reason why he's doing it. So therefore, you can't trust him.
But even like an Amma Aretz, right? We don't trust his betas, right?
We didn't say that necessarily.
I remember learning, and maybe I'm wrong. Like,
Russia is different than Amma Aretz.
It's even Kol V'chomer, even more. Like somebody who's like, I know the Torah for sure. I'm dafka going against it for sure. We wouldn't.
That's correct. That's what we're dealing with here. So that's this one right now. Right. But Amma Aretz is somebody who doesn't know anything.
Right. So
he's just a regular Joe Jew. Right. And so he's he's honest. He just doesn't know what the halachos are. He can testify.
He doesn't have Yirei Hashem that we don't like he can't do a shavua. Like a shavua, what's it going to be doing? He doesn't have.
We'll discuss all these kind of cases, right? What sorts of people can we accept a shavua from or not? So Abaye. So now the next case is lahachis. Let's say he's eating the non-kosher meats and he's doing it for no other reason than just to. He's just trying to make everybody mad, right? Abaye Omar Pasol. Abaye says he is not a valid witness. And Rava Amar Kosher, and Rava says that he is kosher to be a valid witness. And we said this is again another circumstance of Yal Kagam, right? And this one is going to follow Abaye again. Because right, just because he decides that he doesn't believe in the Torah as far as eating non-kosher or not, doesn't mean he's a liar. Those are two different things, right? It can be a truthful, but guy who just doesn't think that it's wrong to eat non-kosher, right? Okay, so now
even when he went off the deck, he'd still be a kosher witness.
Sorry,
even though he went off the deck.
Correct. Abaye Amar Pasol Dehavale Rosha. Right, Abaye says he's exempt. He's no good for being a witness because he's a wicked person. For Rahman Amar Al Tashis Rosha Aid, you can't make a wicked person a witness. For Rav Amar Kosher Rosha Dechamas Ba'inan. In order for you to be a wicked person who's not trusted, you have to be a wicked person who's not trusted over financial matters. Right, you're just a wicked person because you do some avera. That does not mean that you can't be trusted. Meisvei. So we asked the following question, right? Again, halach is going to be like Abaye. We already knew that as the preview of the Gemara. So, Al Tashes Rasha aid. You shouldn't make a wicked person a witness. Al Tashes Chamas aid, and don't make somebody who's wicked with being suspected of being dishonest with money a witness.
Hamas is a thief, isn't it?
Yes, thievery, right? Somebody who's a thief should not be a witness. Elu gazlonin umoalin bashvuos. So who is this talking about? The Brisa says these are thieves and people who don't keep their oaths. So my lav echad shvuos shav vechad shvuos mamon. What kind of oaths are we talking about? Aren't we talking about all kinds of oaths? Meaning he just, it's not just money that he's lying about money issues. He's lying about any issues. He's just a liar. So isn't that what we're talking about? No. Idi ve'idi shvuos mamon. We're talking about oaths regarding money. Umay shvuos. What are we talking about? Why is it plural then when it comes to oaths? If there's only one kind of oath that can ruin him for being a witness, shvuos di alma, because that's just saying that's the category oaths, right? When you're going to swear about monetary oaths, right? Plural. They use the plural, but it doesn't mean there's multiple types. Meisvei. So then we ask a question. Al toshes rasha aid, al tesh chamas aid. Pasuk says you shouldn't make a wicked person a witness, and you should not make somebody who's a thief a witness. Elu gazlonin umalve ribios. This Brisa says it refers to people who are thieves and people who lend with interest. So tiyufta da Abaye, tiyufta. So doesn't that refute Abaye's viewpoint? Because Abaye seemed to imply that it didn't have to be for financial matters. The two situations indicate here are financial. So the answer is no, not necessarily. Nema ketanai. Let's say there's a machlokas tanaim about it. Eid zomim pasol lekol Torah kula divrei Meir. Rabbi Meir holds that if somebody becomes an eid zomim, so then you cannot trust them as a witness ever again for anything. Rabbi Yossi says, when is that? Shehuzam bedine nefashos. That is if the case that they were made to be Eid Zomim was a capital offense case. Right? About huzam bedine mamonis. But if all they did was try to testify that somebody owed money, kasher ledine nefashos, they're still able to be trusted in a capital case in the future. Why? Because just because they lied about a lower court case, right? Cases with money, doesn't mean that they would lie in order to get somebody killed.
What do you think if you lied once?
It's two different.
That's right. One is more, right? Exactly.
What do you think? If you lied once, then
that's okay. So that is again, that's Rabbi Meir's opinion, right? Rabbi Yossi takes what he goes, but it's a different level, right? I could lie in order to get you to pay $500, but I wouldn't lie to get you killed. Right? There's people are thieves, and then there are people who are murderers. This guy's a thief, fine, but he's not a murderer. So now, Abaye can Rabbi Meir. So Abaye seems to hold like Rabbi Meir, right? Because Rabbi Meir says it doesn't matter. One avera, one money. It doesn't. When you're a liar for everything. For Rava, Rabbi Yossi, and Rava will say like Rabbi Yossi that if just because you lied in one case doesn't mean that you're suspected of lying in another case. So too, if you were a wicked person in one circumstance doesn't mean you're a wicked case in others.
Independent of each other,
right?
He's saying he's treating it as separate mida, like it's a separate.
That's correct. Yes. Interesting. So Abaye Kerebi Meir, how does Abaye holding Rabbi Meir? Damar Amrinan Mikula lechumra, right? Even a lesser, if he lies in a lesser situation, he'd do the same thing in a more severe situation. That's what Rabbi Meir's holding. For Rav Damar Kerebi Yossi, and Rav is holding like Rabbi Yossi Damar Michumra lekula Amrinan. If you lie in a more strict situation, then you're right, you'll lie in a more lenient situation. But Mikula lechumra lo Amrinan. But we would not presume just because you lied in a lenient situation that you would do the same thing in a more strict situation, right? So aliba the Rabbi. So that is not the argument. We want to try to say that was Rabbi Meir. That was what was Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi's argument was the same thing as Abaye and Rava's. No, that is not what's going on. Aliba the Rabbi Yossi kuliyam lo pligi. Nobody disagrees with Rabbi Yossi's points, right? Everybody agrees Rabbi Yossi's right. Just because you lied in money doesn't mean you'd lie about killing somebody. Ki pligi aliba the Rabbi Meir. Their argument is in Rabbi Meir's point because Abaye, Rabbi Meir. Abaye holds straight like a Rabbi Meir. Once you lie in one case, you're going to consider to be a liar in all.
Is it that if somebody lied, okay, going back to the Manda Omar says like if I lie about thievery, doesn't mean I'll lie about killing. But if I lie about killing, he would
he would
lie about thievery.
That's correct.
I thought it meant more in like
not because they're two separate issues,
Right.
but because one is more strict than the other.
Each other. I
Right?
thought it was more like a greater theft, not like because it was a bigger.
Yeah,
case.
you wouldn't say
saying-
just because he lied about $500 doesn't mean he wouldn't lie about $1,000.
Right.
Right? No, not necessarily. Money is money.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought that. But you're saying it's actually like, okay, murder would be higher up, so therefore if he would lie about murder, for sure he would lie
That's
about
correct.
money.
That's what Rav is saying. That's correct.
Okay,
that's what Rabbi Yossi is saying.
Right.
But Rava will answer you, Ad kan lokam Rabbi Meir hosam ella gabi eid zomim. Rabbi Meir only is saying that you lose your complete trustworthiness when it comes to being an eid zomim. That because you testified falsely. That's literally what you did. And that's why you lose all credibility, right? Because why? Because eid zomim demamon. Dera l'shemayim v'ra l'brios. Because you've done two things when you've testified in court, right? Even about money. You have harmed a person and you have committed an avera. Those are two different things. One's, right, you attacked Shemayim, you attacked heaven, you violated Hashem's rules, and you attempted to hurt somebody.
Right.
So those are two parts. Aval hacha, but here, where we're talking about doing an avera, whether it's on purpose or not, like eating not kosher or something like that, Derola Shemayim ve'lo lebrios, it's only bad between you and heaven. It's not it doesn't cause any harm to somebody else. So then I can't apply that to a circumstance of testimony. Right? Just because there's no bein adam l'chaveru element. So just because a person would, he's going to eat non-kosher, doesn't mean he's going to lie and hurt somebody else. Right? Those are two different levels of things. That's what Rava says. The hilchasaba, by the way, the halacha is kavasid Abaye. The halacha is like Abaye. V'ho tisuf. But wait a second, we just said in the middle of the Gemara here we had a tiyufta. Right? Tiyufta usually means the end of the Gemara, and we've decided halacha against Abaye. So hahi Rabbi Yossi he. So he says, okay, that brisa that we said doesn't follow Abaye. That was a brisa that holds like Rabbi Yossi. That's why that brisa holds like Rabbi Yossi. V'tihavi nami Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yossi, halacha Rabbi Yossi. So he says, okay, fine. Let's establish that brisa as Rabbi Yossi. But when we know that there's a rule, whenever Rabbi Yossi has an argument between whenever we have an argument between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Meir, the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi. So therefore,
what makes this one different though?
So that's the question. So why is this one any different? If the halacha is going to follow Rabbi Yossi anyway, we've got a brisa that follows Rabbi Yossi, how can the halacha be like Abaye when the brisa contradicts him? So the answer is Shani Hasam. So this is the answer. It's different over there. Why? Distam lon tanak Rabbi Meir. This time the halacha is like Rabbi Meir, not Rabbi Yossi. Why? Because when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote the Mishnayos, if he ever quoted an opinion without assigning a person, without attributing a person to that opinion, he meant to say that is the accepted consensus halacha. And Rabbi Meir's opinion in this circumstance, that if you're dishonest in one circumstance, we consider you dishonest for everything, he wrote someplace in a Mishnah, and he did not say it was somebody's opinion, therefore we know that's the halacha. So the question is, Vehecha. Now I got to go searching the entire Mishnayos, find out where did Rabbi put this in. So the Hecha Stam Lon, Kiha de Bar Chama. Here's the circumstance. Ha Bar Chama, Kotel Nafsha, Amaresh Galusa, L'Ravaba. So here's the story. The story is Bar Chama killed somebody. So the Reish Galusa, who was Rav Nachman at the time, so he says to Rav Abba Bar Yaakov, Puk Ayin Ba, I need you to do some investigation, right? Figure out what we can do to help Bar Chama get out of this murder case. So Ivadai Kotel Lichiyuhu Le'enei. Well, if the guy if he's guilty, so that we're going to poke out his eye. Why? Because they weren't doing capital cases at this point. During Rav Nachman's time already, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. There was no capital cases. Why they're doing, Rashi says that they still had the right to do some kind of physical attacks on people in order to give punishment. But that's according to I like Rashi's second answer that they were going to charge him money, right? They were going to impose some kind of monetary fine on him. But Rashi does say that the first opinion is Yinaku as enough that they were going to poke out his eye. So also Tresadi. So now here's this case. So two witnesses came, Ashidu Bey, and they testified at him, Devadai Katal, that he definitely killed the guy. Okay, so now, also Ihu, I see Tresadi, Asidu Bey, Bechad Minahanach. So he went, so therefore, what was it? Rav Abba Bar Yaakov came along, And he found witnesses about these two witnesses. He found one of them came and said, Chad Amar Kamai Didi gun of Kava de Chushla, Chad Amar Kamai Didi gun of Kata on Chav Zayin Beis, Kata de Burtia. They brought two witnesses and said, hey, that first witness, he stole a bunch of grain. And that second guy, he stole the handle of a spear. So these two guys who were testifying are thieves. Okay, so now, Amar Le.
Yeah.
So what was going on here? Right. So here's you've got a guy accused of murder.
Right.
And there were two witnesses against him that he did it. Right. So then they went and did research and they found that these two guys are thieves.
Right.
Okay, so now the question is like this. Amar Le, he said to him, my da'atech. So he says, why would that help? The fact that we proved them to be thieves.
But one of them was holding a sphere.
Correct.
They could have killed him with a sphere.
Oh, they didn't kill these were not the murder weapons. They're just saying that they happen to be thieves in other circumstances. So, my da'atech, what are you holding like? Rabbi Meir? So, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi, halach Rabbi Yossi. Wait a second. Remember, Rabbi Yossi says just because they were thieves of money doesn't mean that they would come and testify about a person that would kill him. Right? That was what Rabbi Yossi said. And what are you going to say? We hold like Rabbi Meir, who says we are concerned for that? Well, this is an argument between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi, and the halacha should be like Rabbi Yossi. Basically, they painted themselves into the same corner that we're in. And how did they answer it? Rabbi Yossi, Amar, Huzam Badini Mamanus, Kosher Ladini Nefashos. Rabbi Yossi, who the halacha should be like, would say just because they are invalid when it comes to monetary laws doesn't mean they're invalid for testimony about capital crimes. So Amalei Rav Papi. So Rav Papi explained back, Hani Mili Heichadolostam Lan Tanaka Rabbi Meir. That's only if we don't have a Mishnah that clearly states Rabbi Meir's opinion without attributing it to a person. So Hacha Stamlan Tanaka Rabbi Meir, and that's what we have. Okay, so now we've had a couple of people quoting this alleged existence of this Mishnah. We haven't seen the Mishnah yet. So Mimai. So where do we see it? So let's take a look at this Mishnah. So this Mishnah says, and it's not applied to anybody who can judge capital cases for sure can judge monetary cases. So money. So who does this opinion go like? If it's Rabbi Yossi's opinion, but that's not true. According to Rabbi Yossi, there's a person who can become an invalid witness for money cases, but can still testify in murder trials, right?
Right.
So then we have a rule that somebody is invalid as a witness for something can't be a judge in that case. That means that we have a person who cannot be a judge for financial cases, but can still be a judge for capital crimes. So this Mishnah does not follow Rabbi Yossi. El Alav.
You don't want to judge always a judge, no matter what the situation is.
No. Once we find that this judge is dishonest, we're going to remove him. Right? Can't keep a dishonest judge. Right? There's accountability. El Alav, Rabbi Meir. It must be that it's Rabbi Meir's opinion. So Mimai. So no, not necessarily. Who says it's Rabbi Meir's opinion? Dilma bepsule yuchsun kai. Maybe what's going on here is this Mishnah is not talking about invalidation because of some kind of dishonesty in his actions as a witness or as a judge, but rather what's going on is he is invalidating this fellow because he has some kind of family lineage blemish. Because a mamzer or an eved can't judge capital crimes, but could be a judge in monetary cases. Right. So therefore, all this Mishnah is saying is anybody who has the proper family lineage to judge a capital crime can judge also financial crimes. Right. It's not really talking about, you're right, there could be a circumstance where happens to be a judge. We're not talking about that case. Okay? Because if you don't say that that's what this Mishnah is talking about, so then Seifa, take a look at the end part of the Mishnah, which says, Yesh roi ladun dini mamonus. There are some people who can judge financial cases. Vein roi ladun dini nefashos, can't judge capital cases. Now, amayin or roi, why? How could a person, if it's Rabbi Yossi's case, how could you ever have a person that can judge financial cases but can't judge capital cases? Because the itzum bedini nefashos roi ladun dini mamonus. If somebody has testified falsely about a capital crime, then you're saying that he can still judge a case of financial crime, everybody, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Meir agree that that's not valid, right? Because he's testified. So that's not what we're talking about. This mission is talking about just the invalidation relating to family, meaning what's your family status.
Right.
So since your family status is weak, that's why you can only judge financial cases, but you can't judge capital cases. So this Mishnah doesn't. Hachinami b'psul yuchsin. That's what we're talking about in the first part of the case. So that's not the Mishnah.
You also said they don't have to be dying. Like, anyways, yeah.
So that's not the Mishnah.
No, but I'm saying, like, could it have been? Because before we said that you had to be a dayan to be able to do dinin nefashos, but you didn't have to do with money, right? With money.
Right. That
so
was
maybe he was a
right. But the Mishnah says, the Mishnah that we quoted said that every judge who can judge capital crimes can also judge financial crimes.
Right.
So this must be talking about Yuchsin, because if it was talking about
right, so that right, it wouldn't invalidate him if fine, that makes sense.
Correct. Okay, so now Elahacha. Rather, we're going to try with a different Mishnah. Elahacha kastamlan Tana Ditznan. We learned in the Mishnah. Eluhain haposlim. These are the people who are invalid as witnesses. Mishnah's familiar. Hamasachik bekuvia, somebody who is playing with gambling. Umalve ribis, somebody who lends with ribis. Umafricha yonim, somebody who is racing the doves. The sochre shvius, or selling shmita produce. The ha'avadim, and also avadim, also the slaves. So now ze'aklal, this is the rule. Kol edu she'ena isha kshera la. Any testimony that a woman cannot testify about, she's invalid to testify. Avhein in kshirin law, these people who are invalid to be witnesses also can no longer testify in. So money. So who is this Mishnah like? Rabbi Yosef, if you're going to tell me it's Rabbi Yosef, ha'eka edus bedinin nefashos she'ena isha kshera law. What about circumstances of capital crimes, where a woman cannot testify in capital crimes? Vehein ksherin law, but these people who are invalid for to be witnesses can testify for capital crimes, right? Because we said just because they are suspected of financial criminality doesn't mean we're going to suspect them of testifying falsely about capital cases. Elav, Rabbi Meir here, our Mishnah must be Rabbi Meir's opinion. So therefore, since we've established the halachas like Rabbi Meir, so Kam Bar Chama, so Bar Chama, who is accused of murder, has now just gotten off, right? Based on this clever interpretation of the Mishnah, proving that the halachas is like Rabbi Meir, which proves that these witnesses are thieves, which proves that they are no longer able to accept their testimony. So, which means that he's innocent, or at least he may have, or he's not guilty, right? He's not getting punished, right? He's not necessarily innocent, but he's not guilty. Right? So, Kam Bar Chama nashke akar'e. So Bar Chama got up and kissed him on the feet. The kavle lekarge de kuli shane, and agreed to pay his taxes for the year. Right? So that's what he agreed to. Says the next Mishnah. Ve'elu heina krovin. These are the relatives that you cannot testify about. Achiv, his brother. Achi aviv, his father's brother. Ve'achi imo, his mother's brother, so his uncles, right?
How about your mother?
Your mother can't testify, right? You can't, right? So mother's not going to be able to testify for you at all because she's a woman.
I like to testify against your mother, though.
Testify against your mother, we're going to see no, but we're going to see per. Hang on a second. Ubal achoso, also your sister's husband, right? So what we're going to see that sister's husband is essentially like your brother. Right? It's your brother-in-law, but we're going to say whenever you have a female relative who's married to somebody, that husband takes on the male characteristics of that female, right? So in other words, your sister, her husband, cannot be testified because he's like your brother, right? Your mother's husband, right, can't be testified because he'd be like your father, right?
Testify against you, or you can't testify against
these are krovim that cannot. We're going to assume that you're the one accused. These are people who cannot testify you.
Yeah,
right?
Because that says this is Eluheim krovim.
Right. These are people who are related to me. Right. And I guess I can't testify about them either. Right.
Right. So both ways. Right. Okay. Fine. Right.
Ubal achos aviv. What about your father's sister's husband? So that's going to be the same thing, right? That's your father's sister's husband is the same thing as your father's brother, which we said you can't do, your uncle again. But this is your uncle through marriage. Ubal achos imo. Also, your mother's sister's husband also can't do, right? Ubal imo. also your mother's husband, who doesn't necessarily have to be your father, right? Your mother's husband.
Your stepfather, for example.
V'chamav, and your father-in-law. V'giso, and your brother-in-law. This is a case where your wife has a sister and she has a husband. That's the brother-in-law, right? That's not your sister's husband. This is your wife's sister's husband. That's still considered
It's your wife's brother-in-law.
Huh?
It's your wife's brother-in-law.
Wife's brother-in-law. It's also your brother-in-law. We call it still in the common language. We call that your brother-in-law also, but it's one step further removed. That's why the Mishnah has to put that.
Your brother-in-law once removed.
Right. So now, in all of these cases, not only can you not testify, you can't testify about Hain, them, Ubenehen, and any of their children, Vichas Nehen, and any of their son-in-laws.
Would a get change the circumstance?
A get would change the circumstance, right? It has to be your current wife, right? Once you're,
Or if they get divorced.
or right, my father's sister's husband, and then they get divorced.
Okay.
That's
They're no longer together, which
that's
means
correct.
you
Now I'm no longer invalid for testimony. Questions are going to come up. What if I saw the testimony when I was related, and then I now want to give the testimony when they're not related? So these are questions that we'll have to discuss. Okay. So now, next one, v'chorgo levado. Now, when it comes to your stepson, just your stepson is invalid for testimony. You can't testify about your stepson, but not his son, his son-in-law, or anybody else. Just the stepson himself.
What's that? If he's your son through a second marriage or whatever.
So he's your son. He's not really your son. He's your wife's son, right? So he's your stepson. So we're gonna see where all the psukim come in and how we learn all the different cases out. Amar Rabbi Yossi says, Zu Mishnah's Rabbi Akiva. This was Rabbi Akiva's version of the Mishnah. Ava Mishnah Rishona, the original version included, just said, Dodo, your uncle, Uben Dodo, and your cousin, right? Your uncle's son, right? Your cousin, V'chol ha'aroi liyorsho, and only people you can't testify about, according to the original, was people who you would stand to inherit. So basically, you have a reason why you want them to win the case, because you want them to have more money, because maybe you'll inherit it one day, right? So that's why. V'kol ha'karov lo be'oso shah, and anybody you're related to at that moment, and that's I think that Aviv's point is right that if they're not no longer continuing to be related, so then that is that concludes the relationship. Haya karov nisrachek, right? If they were related and now they're no longer, hareze kosher, then you are able to testify.
You just went through that pasuk, and like this is from Baba Basra, Benos Slavchad. This is like all the krivim that are connected.
So those are inheritance. This is going to be slightly different than inheritance, right? My father's sister's husband doesn't inherit me.
It doesn't, right? Okay. Yeah.
My mother's my wife's
brother's
sister's husband doesn't inherit, right? But that was the original it went through by inheritance.
Right.
But then we said these are also relatives. Rabbi Yehuda says, Afilu Mesa Bito, the Yeshlo Bonim Mimeno. What happens if he has a daughter, right? And his daughter was married, and his daughter had children. Okay? So now Harezek Karov. So that son-in-law still remains his relative. Why? Because he's related to his grandchildren. It's his grandchildren's father. So otherwise, normally we would say that it would be my daughter's husband if they got divorced or if she died and now he's not my relative anymore. But if I had grandchildren already, now he stays related to me.
But even if you're divorcing your grandchildren, are they still be related?
Yes. Well, yes, because my grandchildren that's a good point. I'm not sure, actually 100% sure, but yes. I think the answer is yes. Once you have the grandchildren, even if they get separated, you're still related to that son-in-law through the grandchildren. Okay, now, ha'ohev v'hasone. Let's say somebody is an excellent friend, or somebody is a terrible enemy. Ohev, so those people also can't testify. So what's the definition of an ohev? What's the definition of a sone? So ohev zeshushbino. Ohev is these people like we had discussed before, that they are agreeing to be part of your wedding party, Right? You have to be pretty close friends. They come over and they're setting up your chasana for you. That's like serious friends. And sone, hatred is kol shelo davar diber imo shlosha yamim be'eva. Anybody who got so angry with that you didn't talk to him for 3 days. That's like a lot of people. All right. Amar le lo nechshu. He answers back to Rabbi Yehuda. Lo nechshedu Yisrael al kach. No way. That no Jew is like that. We're not going to concern somebody just because you don't like somebody. You're going to lie about them? No way. Okay. So now let's get into the Gemara. Minani Mili. What is the source for all of these relatives and this and these prohibitions? Detana Rabbanan. Rabbis learned lo yumsu avos al banim. The pasuk says that when in the Tochacha, when we're being punished, but nobody, fathers will not die for the sins of their children. Right. So matamad lomar, what is it coming? What's the pasuk coming to tell me? Im lila made shalo yumsu avo be'avon banim. If it's literally just telling me that if a father does an avera, the children are not going to die because of it. The father eats treif and his kids die, will not happen. Right? Banim ba'avon avos, or the children will die because of the father will die because of the children, or the children die because of the father. Harei kvar nemar. There's already a different pasuk that tells me that. The pasuk says, "Ish bechato yumasu." A person will die for his avera, which means only his own avera. Ella lo yumsu avos al banim. So what does it mean that a father should not die because of his sons? That's be'edus banim, that he won't die because of the testimony of his son. A father cannot be put to death because his son testified against him.
It is eidos.
So it's about eidos.
Like a witness.
Yes. Ubanim lo yumsu al avos. Also, the children won't be killed because of the father. Be'edus avos, by the testimony of their father. Ubanim be'avon avos lo. Are you telling me that children can't be punished because of the sins of their fathers?
You say 4 generations.
V'haksiv, the pasuk says, "Poked avon avos al banim." Hashem is going to repay the sins of the fathers on the children. So the answer is, Hasam, that over there is kisha'ochsin mase avoseim biyadei, and that's only if the children continue to do the avera that their fathers did. They don't learn the lesson from their fathers, and they do the same avera, they keep doing it.
Or like the father was like the snake that allowed him to eat from the tree.
The father was the snake?
No. You know, like the snake told Adam and Eve.
Oh, the father was enticing them.
Yeah.
Okay,
The snake did.
Kinetanius, we learned a brisa. The'af ba'avonos avosam atem yimaku. Right? Even in the sins of your fathers, you will be rotted. Kesha'ochsid mase avoseim biyadeim. That is when you hold on to the same averis as your fathers. Atomer kesha'ochsin oeino ela keshe'enosin. How do you know? Maybe the pasuk says you're going to get in trouble for your sins of your fathers even if you don't do them. Keshuomer ish bechato yumasu. When you have a pasuk in the Torah that says a person will die for his own averos, harei kesha'ochsin mase avoseim biyadeim velo mase avoseim biyadeim. So then, if it says you're only going to die because of your sins, the only way that you can get your father's sins is if you continue to do the same avera. Now, it will be a worse punishment if you do your father's sins than if you make up your own. But this is velo. Is that true that you're not going to punish your father's sins? The pasuk says, "V'chashlu ish be'achiv." So a person caused his brother to stumble. Ish be'avon achiv. This means that a person can stumble in the avera of his brother. And Melami, this teaches us shekulan arevim zebazeh. All Jews are connected to one another. So therefore, a Jew who has a friend who stumbles can be punished for the avera that his friend stumbles. Well, that's not fair. I didn't do the avera. Why am I getting punished? So the answer is,
you can stop your friend from doing
that's the answer. He had the opportunity to stop his friend from doing it, and he didn't stop him. What kind of a friend is that? So therefore we go into Chav Ches Amud Aleph. Ashkechan avos lebanim with lavos. So now, so far, we've proved fathers and children can't testify about each other. So far, so good. The kol shekain avos lahadadi. Okay, fine. We can also then learn that if you're looking at the scorecard here, right, you've got fathers, we've got an Av, right, and we've got a Ben, right, and then we've got
the dog.
Why is it Kol Shekain? So if this relationship, an Av to a Ben, is going to be invalid, so let's say this relationship, here's another father, they're brothers. This relationship, being the same generation and them being brothers, is closer than this relationship of father to son. So therefore, if a father to son can't testify about each other, for sure, father to father can't testify about each other. I'm trying to figure out why that is.
Wait. Two brothers are considered closer than a father and a son?
That's what he says here. I'm trying to figure out why that is. Right? My son are going, well, it's like this.
So many arguments. The Torah says the first time the word ahava is used is when it's
Maybe for
Abraham to Yitzchak. We say that the first time the word is used, it is literally the definition of
like your brother would never spoil.
Here he says, here's what the Kal V'chomer is. He doesn't bring on the bottom a note. Kal V'chomer who? Here's how the Kal V'chomer. She'im es b'nei ha'achim shekorvosam ba'a mikoach avoseim psulim laha'id ze al ze. So then Kal V'chomer she'es avoseim nifsol le'edus.
You know why?
Yeah, but we didn't get that far yet. Did I skip something? Hang on a second. Ubanim la'avos. Ben Shimon l'Ruvain. Dainu ben Achiv. Okay. Yeah, I missed something here. There's one thing I missed. Hang on a second. Let me see what I fit.
Yeah. Yes. I think the way it works is that there was a shift. And the highest of the high. That is the Rabbi, now that you said this.
Okay, so here's what the pasuk is saying, right? We've got a plural, right? We've got avos and we've got banim. This I didn't mention. Rashi points it out, and I did not notice it until I realized it now. So what happens is like this. We've got a pasuk that says fathers can't testify about their sons, and sons can't testify about their fathers.
Right.
Okay, so that means so therefore, what we have two fathers, avos. We've got av 1 and av 2,
Right.
and we've got sons 1 and sons 2.
Right.
Fathers, plural, can't testify. A father can't testify about the sons, plural. This one or this one. The sons can't testify about this father or that father.
Oh, I see.
They're referring to the uncles as fathers.
That's
Right.
because there's also a father. There's two sons, right? If there's a father there's banim, there's two sons. The father, one of the brothers, can't testify about the two sons. The son can't testify about either of the two fathers. Then we said we've got a Kal V'chomer. If the sons can't testify about the two fathers, then the fathers can't testify about each other because they're more closely related. This father is more closely related to his brother than his son is related to his uncle. That's what's going on, right? The father is more closely related to his brother than the son is related to his uncle.
Makes sense.
That makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got that relationship. Now we've got this relationship going.
Right.
Last relationships, we know all these people can't testify about each other, right? Father to son, father to nephew, nephew to uncle, father to son here. But the question is, what about this one?
Right.
Can the cousins testify about each other? What about that one? That's the last one, right?
Probably not.
We were going to say definitely not, but we're going to learn it from here. So now he says, Banim libanim minolan. What about the sons? Can they testify about each other?
Right.
So im kain lo lichtov kra lo yumsu avos albain. Well, then if you would have had a singular son, so then that would have been fine. That's what you would have been able to see. My banim. Why does it say that sons can't testify? Dafilu banim lahadadi. Sons cannot testify about any of the other sons either. So even the first cousins can't testify about each other either. That's what we're learning. So none of these relationships, right? In this family circle of 4 people, nobody can testify about anybody else. Okay? So that's pretty good. We will stop here.
Okay.
So remember, we're